with the festive sale right around here, one question that a lot of you guys have been pestering me with is whether the POCO X2 or the POCO X3. Both the phones are great phones from the same company, and with a price difference of just rupees 500 between both the phones with the new sale prices, a lot of you guys are confused on which phone to pick. Well, this is Varun from Guiding Tech, and today I'll try and find an answer to that very question. Let's get started. So let's start off with the display. Now both the phones offer the same 6.67-inch 120Hz LCD panel. That's great. The POCO X3, however, it has a single punch hole camera up top in the center, while the POCO X2 houses the front camera on the left side. Personally, I prefer the camera in the center because, it just looks a little bit more symmetrical, and I don't really fancy that secondary selfie camera taking up more space on my screen because it doesn't really add on much value for the selfie portraits and all. So yeah, in terms of the display design, easily the POCO X3 is what I prefer. I mean, in terms of the display, right? And both are LCD panels, so the great. They are obviously not as bright as AMOLED panels, so using them under direct sunlight can be a task. Now they're both 120Hz refresh rate displays, but one advantage that the POCO X3 has is that it has a 240Hz touch sampling rate. So that's, slightly better for gamers. I mean, not slightly, it obviously makes a lot of difference in terms of the latency, but unless you're gaming, you won't really notice a lot of difference. Now it's the overall design that basically separates both the phones. For me at least, that is one of the most defining factors. And in that aspect is where I feel the POCO X2 is a better pick. See, the POCO X2 has a glass front, a glass back with a more premium finish, and although it's still heavy at 208 grams, it's way less lighter as compared to the POCO X3, which at 225 grams is very heavy, and it feels that heavy in your hand. Plus that plastic finish on the POCO X3 is very cheap. I mean, I genuinely don't like it. It just, I don't know, man. It's chunky, it's bulky, looks cheap, and doesn't really look like a phone that's worth the kind of money that you're paying for it, especially considering the kind of designs and the kind of look and feel of the devices that we've seen and we've come to expect in this price category. Now you do get IP53 splash proof rating with the POCO X3, but if you don't care a lot about water ratings, I think the POCO X2 is water repellent enough to survive slight rain or something like that. So yeah, I mean, just putting it out. Now in terms of performance, the POCO X2 comes with a Snapdragon 730G, while the POCO X3 comes with a Snapdragon 732G. And in terms of numbers, while they are just 2 numbers apart, in terms of day-to-day performance, the difference between both of them is 0. I mean, seriously, apart of the benchmarks, there is absolutely 0 difference in both the chipsets. You won't really notice a difference in gaming, in day-to-day usage, app launch times, whatever. Both the phones perform equally the same. Obviously, gaming feels a bit better on the POCO X3, but that is because of that touch sampling rate and not because of the better processor. Because actually even calling it the better processor is kind of like a marketing tactic, because it's not really a better processor, it's basically the same processor. It's just better in terms of benchmarks, and who cares about benchmarks? Moving along, we have the cameras, and on paper, some might say that the POCO X2 has a better camera because it has an IMX686 sensor against the IMX682 sensor on the POCO X3, but in reality, the POCO X2 can't really do 4K 60 FPS, so they're both technically the same sensor only. The POCO X3 also has a bigger 13 megapixel ultra-wide sensor, so that's also an added advantage. Now personally, I genuinely don't care about numbers. For me, it's all about the performance, and that is where the X3 actually shines. See, the POCO X2 clicks amazing pictures, no doubt about it. I mean, we've said it time and again, the POCO X2's camera is great, it's sharp and crisp, but it oversaturates images quite a lot. The POCO X3 is able to optimize it, and while there is a tint of saturation, it's the more appealing kind. It's something that you would manually want to add to your photos, and that really makes the POCO X3's camera really good. In fact, I recently did a camera comparison of the POCO X3 with the OnePlus Nord, which you should check out, and the thing about that phone is that the POCO X3 was able to beat the OnePlus Nord easily. and even when it wasn't able to beat it, it was right at par with it. So yeah, that is how good the POCO X3's camera is. So if you don't really care about numbers, I mean, even at numbers, the POCO X3 anyway wins. But in day-to-day performance also, the POCO X3's camera is better. Next up, we have the battery life. And well, the POCO X2 comes with a 4500 mAh battery with 27 watts of fast charging, while the POCO X3 comes with a beefy 6000 mAh battery with a 33 watt fast charger support. Now, personally, if you ask me, I would slide with the POCO X2. See, I don't need that big of a battery size. I understand if I'm going out on a trip or going for a trek or something like that, I might need that battery, but I don't want to carry a big device with me just for that one-off occasion. Usually for my daily usage, 4500 mAh is more than enough. The POCO X2 easily lasts an entire day, actually even more than that. So going for 6000 mAh, to me personally, does not make that sense. 27 watt hours is amazing. It charges the device in under 1 hour, slightly more than that actually, and that's enough for the POCO X2. So personally, if you ask me, I think I would go for the POCO X2 here against the POCO X3. And yes, it goes without saying that the POCO X3 has a much better battery life. But the question here is, do you really need that? And well, that's the whole point of this video. If you actually ask me to separate both the phones, the real difference is between the design and the battery life and the camera. The POCO X3 has the camera, while the POCO X2 has that design. The POCO X3 has the battery life, but the question is, do you really need that battery life? I think I would trade that extra humongous battery for a more comfortable and a more premium design, which is why I would prefer the POCO X2. However, for $500 more, you get a better camera. So there's that as well. Now, the whole point here is to understand what kind of a user you are. The POCO X3 isn't entirely a successor to the POCO X2 if you put both the phones across the table. In fact, the POCO X3 and POCO X2 are more like brothers, and it's up to you to decide what your priorities are. If your priority is a better camera, the POCO X3 is what you should be looking for. If your priority is gaming, once again the POCO X3 is what you should be looking for. Better touch sampling rate and longer gaming hours with that huge battery. But if your priority is using a device for daily usage, still having a great camera, and just feeling premium, feeling not that heavy in your hand, I think the POCO X2 is something that you should be looking to spend your money on. Also, just putting it out here, the sale prices are something that I feel will remain even after the sale. Because with the POCO X3 here, I really don't see how the company could price the POCO X2 higher than that going forward. So don't worry if you miss out on buying the POCO X2. I mean, if you want to buy the POCO X2, I would. So just don't be worried if you miss out on it during the sale. Trust me, within a few weeks, the POCO X2 will still get to that price bracket and you can easily buy it. So don't fret on it. And well, that was it. If you like this video, make sure to let us know by giving us a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel for more awesome tech content. Till then, this is Varun from Guiding Tech, and I'll see you in the next one.